Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing whether or not we could please tone down the fear porn, which is the only real word I have for it at this point. The reason I'm making this video based on a number of different things, but one, as we've discussed, especially here recently, I don't know why, but there just seems to be a group of people that wants to continue being hysterical just about public health sort of generally, and to do just radically unprecedented things. Yeah, granted, they're precedented insofar as we've done it over the past 2 years, but prior to 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago at this point, we didn't do anything like lockdowns, mandates, etc. But okay, we've done it. I think the data is pretty clear at this point. The mandates were not particularly useful. The lockdowns, what we do know they did is destroyed economies. What we don't particularly know that they did, in fact, it seems the data is being borne out quite to the opposite end of the spectrum, is that they seem to have not done very much good with respect to, helping anything with respect to the overall situation. But leaving that aside, the reason for the video is I was reading a recent article from Bangkok Post, BangkokPost.com. Article is titled "Government on High Alert," on High Monkeypox Alert. Quoting directly, Thailand is considering raising further its health alert for monkeypox by listing it as a so-called, quote, serious communicable disease, unquote, after the viral disease was classified as a new public health emergency worthy of international concern. Quoting further, World Health Organization on WHO on Saturday declared monkeypox as quote, a public health emergency of international concern, unquote, and urged member countries to find effective methods that do not stigmatize target groups. Now, the reason for the video, I'm going to get into further analysis here in a minute. Yeah, there's no question there's a disease here, but we're not looking at the same scenario we were looking at 2.5 years ago, to the best of my understanding. This isn't an unknown disease. It's also not, to my understanding, a disease that's particularly respiratory spread. And it's not spread without symptoms. It's not spread asymptomatically. So, again, the hysteria that seems to be cropping up seems not to be not only unwarranted, but as we'll get into here in a little bit, kind of wonder. I mean, I'm usually not prone to this type of speculation, but I'm starting to wonder if there might be some ulterior motives here. Quoting further, so as Bangkok Post noted, WHO declared this a quote, a public health emergency of international concern. Going to another website with the article, WHO declares global public health emergency over monkeypox virus outbreak. This was at healthpolicy-watch.news. Quoting directly, WHO has declared a new global public health emergency over the monkeypox outbreak, which has now spread to more than 16,000 people in over 75 countries and territories, in what some public health experts described as a quote-unquote bold decision by Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, overriding a divided group of expert advisors. And this is really key here. I'll get into this further. The WHO Director General announced his decision after a 2-day meeting by a 15-member International Health Emergency Committee failed to come up with a consensus recommendation. So this committee was put together of presumably some of the top experts in the world, and no consensus could be raised about whether or not this should be deemed, quote, a public health emergency of international concern, unquote. Quoting further from this second article, speaking at an extraordinary WHO press conference convened on Saturday, Dr. Tedros said that took the decision in line with his authority to do so, deciding that the outbreak meets the criteria for a, quote, public health emergency of international concern under the terms of WHO's binding international health regulations. He said that he took the decision despite the fact that currently WHO's determination is that the global risk of monkeypox to public health remains quote-unquote moderate, except for in the European region where risks are quote-unquote high. Quoting further and quoting directly, there was no consensus by them. We believe that it's time to declare PHEIC, considering their advice and considering how it has spread since the last meeting of the emergency committee in late June, at a time when the infection was only being seen in 37 countries. Quoting further and quoting directly, quote, we believe this will mobilize the world to act together. It needs coordination, solidarity, especially for the use of vaccines and treatments, unquote, said Tedros. So I don't really know. This is very odd to me that Thailand is sort of getting all wound up about considering this a public health emergency of international concern because WHO is saying it, but it's not really a WHO panel. It's just one person, seemingly, that's making this determination. Finally, I wanted to go ahead and provide a little sort of background on Tedros. This comes from the Daily Mail, dailymail.co.uk, and the article is titled, Tedros is re-elected as head of WHO for a second 5-year term after becoming household name during COVID crisis. And quoting directly from a couple of excerpts in that article, I urge folks who are watching this video, go check out all of these articles, all very interesting stuff. Quoting directly, Dr. Tedros, who has never practiced as a medical doctor, is a career politician who was born in what is now Eritrea, began work under the communist Derg junta, and came to study in the UK in 1991. According to the BBC, Dr. Tedros then joined the hard-left TPLF, which started life as a communist party and played a major role in overthrowing Mariam in 1991. It later became part of the EPRDF, a coalition of left-wing parties that ruled Ethiopia until last year. So the thing, there's a lot going on here, but a big reason, and as you can tell, I'm a little bit, we've got air conditioning problems in here. If you notice that I'm sweating a little more than usual. But the thing that really sort of bothered me just overall about all of this was that, you know, and one thing I've always really loved about the history of Thailand is the fact that, you know, Thailand never got colonized. You know, it went through a lot of really difficult times during the colonial era, and there was a lot of heavy foreign influence, but colonization never occurred. And also communism never really took hold in Thailand. Thailand acted as a bulwark against communism. You know, I do understand public health is public health. I'm not trying to politicize something that shouldn't be politicized, but it really is something that I hope public policy makers here in Thailand, public health policy makers here in Thailand, will look at when they, rather than just sort of doing a knee-jerk reaction to, you know, I hesitate to call it hype, but, you know, just sort of a knee-jerk reaction to what the WHO does. Instead, let's analyze what's going on here. Did the WHO, you know, come to a unanimous decision that this is necessary, that we need to start making, you know, arrangements for things that have proven to have really detrimental impacts on the economy here in Thailand, on the overall social structure here in Thailand, just sort of the social fabric, if you will. Meanwhile, you know, we've also got a situation where you got somebody who's a member of the Communist Party who's unilaterally making decisions, seemingly I should say, but based on what I'm reading, seemingly unilaterally making decisions within the WHO, and then those decisions are having real impact here in Thailand over something that, again, unlike what we were dealing with 2.5 years ago, yes, we know what it is. It doesn't have nearly the spread, you know, it doesn't have nearly the lethality or the, you know, the tendency to spread as quickly as other diseases will spread, and there are treatments available already. So again, I mean, can we just turn the fear porn down a notch and really look at this under a more analytical framework?